The night was quiet except for the low hum of engines outside Riverside Diner, where neon lights flickered like tired dreams trying to stay alive. The scent of coffee, gasoline, and rain filled the air as Mason Wolf Carter pushed open the glass door. He was the kind of man people stepped aside for, not because of his size, but because of the weight of his presence. Black leather jacket, scar above his eyebrow, eyes that had seen too much. He led the Steel Serpents, a biker gang known across 3 states, feared by some, respected by many, and hated by a few. He wasn't looking for trouble that night. He just wanted coffee. But trouble found him anyway, in the form of a quiet waitress with a trembling smile and fading bruises hidden beneath her sleeves. If you love stories that remind you that kindness still exists in the darkest corners of the world, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Universe. Because your support helps us keep spreading powerful, true-to-life stories like this one. Her name was Lily, 23, with hair tied in a messy bun and tired eyes that looked older than her years. Mason noticed how she flinched when a customer raised his voice, how her hands shook slightly when she poured his coffee. Most wouldn't have noticed, or they would have looked away. But Mason wasn't most people. "Rough night?" he asked softly as she set his mug down. She smiled, that practiced kind of smile people wear when they're used to pretending. "Just a long shift," she whispered. But he saw it, the shadow of a fresh bruise along her jawline, half covered by makeup. He didn't say anything then, just watched, his jaw tightening as a storm started brewing behind his calm stare. When he stepped outside to smoke, he saw a beat-up blue truck parked by the side. The driver, a big man in a grease-stained shirt, was sitting behind the wheel, glaring through the diner window at Lily. Mason didn't miss the way her shoulders stiffened every time she noticed him. The pieces clicked together like a loaded gun. Mason flicked his cigarette away, his eyes dark as thunder. Inside, he waited until the man came in. The guy's boots were heavy on the tile, his temper already rising. "You done yet, girl?" he snapped loud enough for the whole diner to hear. Lily froze. The air turned thick, everyone pretending not to see. "Just finishing up, Rick," she said quietly. Rick grabbed her wrist hard, his voice dripping with venom. "I told you not to talk to strangers." Before Mason realized it, he was already standing. The scrape of his chair against the floor echoed like a warning. "You might want to let go of her," he said, voice low, controlled, dangerous. Rick turned, sneering. "And who the hell are you?" Mason's expression didn't change. "Someone who doesn't like watching cowards hurt women." The diner fell silent. Even the jukebox seemed to stop. Mason stepped forward slowly, the sound of his boots deliberate, final. Rick's bravado faltered when he saw the biker patches, the skull insignia, the quiet menace of the Steel Serpents watching from outside through the window. Rick shoved Lily toward the counter. "She's my girl, ain't your business." Mason's jaw flexed. "She's a human being. That makes it everyone's business." Rick swung first. Big mistake. Mason caught his fist midair, twisted his arm, and slammed him against the counter so fast the man barely realized what happened. Coffee cups shattered. The other customers gasped. Mason leaned in close, voice deadly calm. "Touch her again, and you won't be able to lift your hand for a long time. Understand?" Rick spat curses, but Mason didn't let go until he saw the fear in his eyes, the kind that makes bullies remember they're not invincible. Then he tossed him toward the door. "Get out!" Rick stumbled outside, muttering threats, but Mason didn't follow. He turned back to Lily, who stood frozen, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded, but her voice trembled. "You shouldn't have done that. He'll come back." Mason took a deep breath. "Then I'll be here." For the next few days, Mason kept his word. Every evening, his bike roared into the parking lot, and he'd sit in his usual booth, ordering coffee he rarely drank. His men stayed nearby, pretending not to notice the waitress, who now smiled a little easier. Words spread fast in the small town. The leader of the Steel Serpents was protecting a diner waitress. Some laughed, some whispered, but no one dared to question him. Still, the peace didn't last. One night, when the diner had closed and the rain was falling hard, Rick returned, with 3 men and a tire iron in hand. Mason was waiting outside under the awning smoking. He didn't flinch when the headlights washed over him. "You brought friends," he said calmly. "Good. I hate repeating myself." Rick smirked. "You think you scare me? You're just a washed-up biker." Mason stepped forward, his boots splashing through puddles. "No, I'm a man who's seen what monsters do when good people look away." The fight was short and brutal. Mason moved like a storm unleashed, years of rage, pain, and regret finding their purpose. When it was over, Rick lay in the mud, staring up at the night sky, his arrogance broken. Mason knelt beside him. "You want to be a man? Start by not breaking what you claim to love." Then he stood, rain dripping from his leather jacket, and walked back toward the diner. Lily was standing at the door, hands over her mouth. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," Mason said, "because no one else would." Over time, Mason and his crew made sure Rick didn't come near her again. They helped fix the diners, broken lights, repainted the sign, and started eating there every weekend. Slowly, the town began to see them differently. Not as criminals, but as protectors. The same people who once crossed the street to avoid them now nodded in respect. Lily found her courage again. She started smiling, real smiles this time. Mason noticed. They never talked about that night again, but the unspoken bond between them became something pure, something steady. Months later, the diner hosted a charity event to raise funds for local shelters. Mason showed up with his entire gang, each one donating in Lily's name. The sight shocked the whole town. The local newspaper ran a headline the next morning, "From Rebels to Guardians, Biker Gang Saves the Heart of Riverside." When asked why he did it, Mason only said one thing: because sometimes the people with the darkest pasts have the brightest light left to give. If you've stayed with us till this moment, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Universe, because every story of compassion you support creates a ripple that can change someone's world. As for Lily, she eventually saved enough money to leave town and start her own cafe, one where the walls were painted with quotes about strength and kindness. Mason stopped by before she left. She hugged him tightly and whispered, "You didn't just save me, Mason. You saved my faith in people." He smiled softly, the kind of smile that carried both pain and peace. "You did that yourself. I just reminded you that you could." And as her car disappeared down the road, Mason stood beside his bike, watching the sunrise break through the clouds, a new day born from the ashes of a broken one. Because sometimes the toughest souls are not the ones who fight for power, but the ones who fight for someone else's peace.